Okay, bad week. Um, so mainly this comes down to one really horrible trade. Um, I don't know, like going back to the last video where we left off, we were talking about potentially starting to trade in the pre-market. Ouch. So what mechanically happened was I got into a trade, and this would have been I think Thursday, so literally the day after, all my talk for discipline and everything, being really good and doing well with like, all right, keeping the losses small, staying in the strategy, getting in here, swinging the bat. It's like, all right, I want to try the pre-market and kind of see what's in there. I got in on IBO, was in it for 30 minutes. Way too long for exposure. Wouldn't cut my loss. What ended up happening was I actually didn't fully realize in Robinhood, well, probably anywhere actually, you can't set stop losses. So mechanically failed right out of the gate where it set up and what I thought was a decent setup in hindsight. Um, it just isn't going to work the same in pre-market for this momentum trade as what it will after the open when there's more volume. Um, Regardless on the technical setup for the trade, I couldn't set my stop loss at the previous candle's low. So what happened was is it surged, I think I was up like 4 or 5 bucks at one point. And not wanting to cut my losses, just kind of like, all right, like we're holding on for a minute. Hadn't scaled out or anything, and then it just bottomed out, cratered so fast, dropped through what would have been my stop loss, the previous candle's low, blew through that, and then seeing some, and this is where it got stupid, is at that point I'm down 5 or 6%, in a matter of a few seconds, and I think, oh well, shoot, well here's this resistance level here, and I can wait for the bump, and yada 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 yada. Long story short, dips down, it was like down 15% at one point. I get back up to down 6. I mean, if you've done any amount of trading, uh, you probably know that stuff like this happens. Well, and it just shouldn't. And it just shouldn't. Here, I'll drag this over onto the screen here. Should be this. So here's the trade. I ended up, taking some time away from it. Didn't trade on Friday. Put myself in trader rehab. Didn't trade on what would that be, Tuesday this week, just because I was out doing a job, had to self perform. So the fifth got in there, lost 13.49% in one day. Uh, on an EONR, that was just it was a decent setup, base hit, ended up stopping me out, and then I ended up recovering and surging after that, which is always so frustrating when that happens. But I'm not really going to break down like the play by play on this. These last couple trades, last couple days have been like pretty typical. Both of them kind of like false breakouts. I seem to be running into that a lot right now. When I talk to my buddy, it's a lot of conversation about like, oh, cold markets and they can cause issues like this. And I think my frustration is I'm used to, I traded for a few months at a high school, like full time, and back then you couldn't really nobody was trading pre-market. There really wasn't a whole lot of retail traders doing anything like that. So I think for me right now, I'm struggling because there's just all these setups that look like they ought to go somewhere, and the follow through rate has just been atrocious. Like I here, I'll pull this back up, on the game plan here where we've got the opening flag play. I wouldn't even say that half of these are like a proper, like A plus opening flag setup in the first place. Like I feel like I'm not getting in on like perfect setups, but I'm also like I'm not seeing a lot of A plus setups uh come in. I mean, a lot of them it's they start the day off weak. There's a sell off, and like that seems to be like the standard experience for these stocks coming into the open. And maybe I need a different scanner or some better way of filtering for these. But right now, it's been tough. I mean, oops, playbook stats. Um, we've dropped our win loss ratio down to 54%. I mean, this is way probably way too long. Well, maybe not way too long, but we've definitely got a couple plays in here that went way longer than our average exposure time should be for a play like this, or at least I would imagine. And not that this is the most important stat, but just um, the concept that I've heard Ross talk about in this high Momo play a lot is like, all right, you want to see it rip as soon as you get in. Like you should see it pull back in the 5 minute, hit the 9 EMA, and a lot of traders will get in at that point, and then there's a confirmation, and pretty much after the confirmation, things should rip. And I've seen that in a couple trades. The problem is it's only air quote ripping up like 6, 7% in some instances, and it's like not that that's not nothing, but come on, that ain't the follow through that we need for this play to math out the way we want it to. Because the problem is I need you know for our yearly account goal, I'm trying to shoot for a daily profit goal of 2% right now, and we're in March, so now we're way behind on meeting our goal for March, unfortunately, because we're way below the starting account balance. Our goal was to get up to 163 by the end of the month. So, and this is what we needed on average to hit that. And we're way behind that now, mainly because, uh, I mean, those couple huge hits were monstrous. But even without those, we're really only pulling in an average win size of 4.72%. Now, in the light of if our average loss size is only 2%, that's not the end of the world and that gets us there. But if our average win size is only 4.72%, and we're only winning 54% of the time, well, I mean, like you can see the math play out. It's not gonna work long term. This isn't even worth the time. Honestly. Even in the long run, like it'd take forever. I'd need a ridiculous account size um for this to be worth it. And I don't know, that's even a silly thing to say. That's a silly thing to say because this just isn't worth the time. Yeah. So we're doing what we can. Um, we got a long ways to go in terms of our strategy and refining this. I want to continue on this play. Actually, back to this one more time. I want to continue on this opening flag play a little bit longer. I've only got right now 13 plays made on this, and honestly, a couple of them not good iterations of it. But at least I'm not getting rewarded for my mistakes. I'm getting punished hard for them, so I'm not learning bad habits. These definitely taught me that. I'd say most of these other, I mean, like I would say like through here, we weren't following the strategy as well as we should have. We were getting into a lot of like I don't even know if you can call them C plus setups, and getting hit with this really kind of woke me up. I think, through here, we had really good discipline, followed the strategy the way that we should have. And you can see, the math plays out a little bit better over the course of all that. Not that, that's not enough data to really base anything off of. But I guess that's kind of my point in general is like we really only have, in terms of good data, like this was kind of, maybe not junk, but not great. This is good data. This is junk because we tried something different in the pre market and got punished hard for it. And then this is good data. So we really only have, like what is this one? Like 8 trades that I would say were like, you know, B plus to A plus rated setups. Got in when we were supposed to, and that maths out at least a lot better than what you know the rest of this data would suggest. So I want to stick with all that to say I want to stick with the opening flag play for a bit longer. I might I don't know because I don't the point of this is I don't want this to steal too much of my day. I'm trying to keep the trading confined to preferably like an hour and a half each day so that I can still have time to do work Um, but again, like I said from the start of the video, or start of these videos I've been making, is I want to steward my time and money well. I'm trying, like, this is me trying to formulate a good habit, a good understanding of strategies, and starting with this opening flag, high momentum play. Um, I want to learn these strategies so that I can maximize, well, basically profits. I mean, it's really obvious. That's really obvious to speak. But I mean, the end goal is to build out this playbook, to have kind of like a decent base, and part of it's like kind of like a intellectual growth for me too. I want to be able to practice this because it's fun. I mean, like the math in it is interesting. I like planning these kinds of things out. I like going through the plays. I really enjoy it. Alongside obviously, the profit potential. It really is a lot of fun, and I think that I can figure this out. But it's certainly going to take more discipline, more data, and then I kind of want to see if I can't scrape together some pocket change at some point here soon, and maybe open up a new play and try something else alongside this. Because again, I want more data before I trash this and move on to something else. Because what I don't want to see is me go from an opening flag to, oh, maybe I'll try this strategy, that strategy, that strategy, that strategy, and then I've got 13 plays here and then 10 there and 10 there, and so on and so forth down the way, because that's gonna be too scatterbrained. Like I need to focus on one thing. But in full honesty, like, oh, it's tough to keep faith in a strategy like this right now. I definitely, like, I trust that it works. I mean, Ross Cameron proves it out every day, but this isn't the main play that my buddy's running right now. And Ross Cameron does things a lot different than I'm trying to. I'm doing this with a tiny account, cash account, so I only can I have to scale in with my trades. And not that that makes this impossible. It's still, the trade is still mechanically the same, and just because the account size is smaller doesn't mean too much. But he's also able to, with his strategy, get in on a play, and if it fails, he's down, a couple percent, and then he's back in on another setup. He's looking at 3 or 4 setups a day, and sometimes he's in and out on several of those. For me, I can't, like, that's I might be able to grow the account that way, but it's gonna be really, really slow. I mean, really slow. Like, to me, in my head, and maybe this is a lack of patience. I'm not sure if like 1% a day is even really like worth it, for me on the time I'm putting into this right now. Because I mean, even like for how many hours this is gonna be. Um, Even if it was like, I think I did the math in the first video on this, but if I trade for 15 days a month, and even if I'm only putting an hour in, I'm looking at, what is it, 180? Call it 200, 200 hours of, oh, that's why I put that there. Whatever, call it 200 hours, because realistically I'm gonna be like an hour and a half every day. Um, and for 200 hours to make, you know, it's It's not that it's bad. It's just not that it's, you know, great overall. And so to go anything under that, it's kind of like, all right, like this might not be worth the time. But again, want to learn the strategy. Not like, I got to keep my patience here. Definitely need to get more plays in the playbook for this strategy. But I'm gonna try to improve, so we might see some difficulty even further going forward here. But I think I need to improve the way that I'm scanning for stocks, qualifying them, and really dig deeper into what is an A plus setup and what's a B plus setup, because maybe for this it's like, all right, I'm only taking A plus. And that means no more like, all right, it sold off weak a little bit at the start, and there's not a lot of other follow through in other stocks or whatever. Like whatever minor detail that's like, all right, that disqualifies it. I don't know. Maybe I just need to be a lot more strict. But then it's like, all right, then I'm only gonna take one or two trades a week. So that's where it gets tough. Um, that's where it gets tough. Is like getting in on those B plus setups like might lead to lower win loss ratio and overall like lower average profit by percentage. But I don't know. I To me it just seems like we're definitely not making it work with what we have here. Um, even barring IBO and MGRX where I just broke form and got bombed for it. This I would call an outlier on a strategy that didn't make sense either. And a lot of these other trades, it's like there's just not a very good margin for the profit loss. So mostly a negative video today, but I don't want it to stick in my craw too much. Just trying to be honest and figure out where this opening flag play is at. Um, I think right now I want to make a commitment. I want to see 25. I mean, we're halfway there. So I want to see 25 total plays made before I make any major changes to this strategy. And if I'm going to make any changes, I'm going to have to write it out like formally. But for now, we'll keep playing at this. Um, and then on the side, I'll see if I can scrape some cash together. I've got a put option strategy that I've been wanting to try out, but it takes an account value of like $500 or whatever. So I'll mess around with that and see if I can pull some cash together to do that separately. But I want to keep this account challenge going for the opening flag play. I'm gonna definitely do some more research, watch some more videos, chat with my buddy about it, see if I can't kind of dial this in without any like major changes, other than obviously like not getting in on the pre-market and not setting my stop losses correctly because both of these just failure to set stop loss. So I don't know. That's it for now. Wanted to keep it fairly simple for this video, still going forward, but I wanted to do a little bit more in depth than I did in the last one. I know the last video was really quick, but making progress technically. I mean, even this, like, it comes with a cost, but if this is the fee for learning hard lessons, then you know what? Like $13, or excuse me, 13%, 17, $18. We'll call it $18. $18. But that's pretty cheap for the lesson of, well, don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot and don't forget slash neglect slash put yourself in a position where you can't set your stop losses, especially with this strategy, because it's super important. Because this would have been a 2% loss on the day. This probably would have been a 3-minute recap video, and I would have been in and out and not droning on about this nonsense. Okay. Um, and then speaking more broadly too, like I want going forward, I still don't want to shove too much time into every one of these videos, but I want going forward to be able to like share some Bible verses and kind of talk a little bit more about like how this pertains to my daily life and like what I'm trying to do with this as a discipline building strategy overall. I still want to keep these videos relatively quick because I don't want to throw too much time into it and strike out, 3 hours of a Wednesday every week. That's just too much for me to commit right now. Um, but I want to talk a little bit more about like discipline because, like I named again, I named it for a reason. Not that because the thing that's in the back of my head is like I don't want to pervert the gospel, so to speak, by having that conversation in the context of money and giving the impression that like okay, like this is all about making money and like basically like um, a personalized version of the prosperity gospel in day trading. That's not what I'm talking about. So I wanted to clarify that because that first video that I did, the audio was really unclear. Um, but really, I just wanted to like talk through the idea of stewardship because I've been thinking a lot about that and what it means to be a good steward. I've been watching a lot of videos redeeming productivity online. I think his I just started watching him. I think his name is Reagan or something like that. Really interesting dude. Love watching him. And he talks a lot about well productivity, redeeming productivity is the name of his channel. And so I've been watching a lot of him, and it's been really cool to see him kind of talk through the basis of the original mandate in the Old Testament. And he talked about this in a previous video where we're still under, like a lot of people don't realize, like we're still under that old mandate of, go forth and be fruitful and multiply. Excuse me, one sec. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Um, so go forth and multiply. He talked a lot about that in his video from a practical standpoint of like, we're meant to be stewards of this earth. We're meant to, uh, you know, take the resources that God's given us. Ultimately, they're all God's resources and manage them as best we can. So, what I'm trying to do here is not just simply like, all right, I need to make more money so that I can purchase more things, go on more vacations. Excuse me. And ultimately just participate more in the consumer culture. That's not that's not what the goal is with this. Really, like I personally, for me, I'm in a position, and so is my buddy. We're both business owners, kind of doing our own thing. So it leaves these gaps of time in our day sometimes where we can make it or we can just have it sometimes because like, oh, we don't have a job going on this day or that day or whatever. And so for me, what this is I want to be able to learn this and build out a strategy so that I can still be profitable, for take home for my family, for investment strategies to build this up, and we'll see what we do with it, if it gets anywhere. Um, but ultimately trying to maintain productivity in those dead hours in a way where it's like I can just go sit down on my computer and all right, we're in a window between uh 9:30 and 11 this morning, and I've got that set aside, and long way of saying like I'm trying to build out strategies where if I have dead time, I can come to, and this isn't all the way built out yet. I hope to do a lot more with this, but I can come to our playbook, sit down and say, all right, like I have 2 hours in the afternoon, like maybe let's do this strategy for today. Hop on, get the screeners up, take a look at what's going on. As opposed to sitting down and watching YouTube videos. I mean, pretty much anything's going to be better than just sitting down and participating in brain rot. And not that this needs to take up every spare moment in our day. I'm not saying that either, but I want to build out a strategy, um, or excuse me, build out kind of a compendium of strategies that I can lean into to kind of fill that time. So that's pretty much the essence of it. It's not too much. It's not more complicated after that. I definitely want to kind of flesh out the idea that all that get back to say. I want to flesh out, you know, the idea of what I'm trying to do here with 10 talent trading, how it impacts discipline, like how we use this to control, not to feed our greed, but to control it. Because obviously we're putting ourselves intentionally in an environment where there's profit loss potential. I mean, that's the definition of it. So we're putting ourselves in an environment where greed is going to be very, very prevalent. And so we have to manage that, manage our expectations, and make this about the math, strategy, maintaining the discipline. So that's doing something that doesn't feel right to us in the moment, It doesn't feel instinctually correct, but we know to be correct through instruction. Like that's discipline in this context. So we need to practice that, practice patience. I'm struggling with that right now for sure. So I want to make sure that I'm using this opportunity to strengthen my patience, not to let it, just falter and, "Oh, I'll jump to something different then." Like, we're sitting at 13 plays. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense for me to run away from this right now. Like, I need to let this play out longer. Um, but I wanna pull this back more to biblical concepts, um, and maybe even read some verses and stuff here on the channel just so that I can also have this, because it never hurts as well to have this as, like, as a form of ministry and growth for myself too. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like, whether this makes, you know, $8,000 by the end of the year and we reach our goal, or it makes $70 and I wasted a whole bunch of time, ultimately, the real value that we can pull from this is the fortitude to our discipline, and, to fighting against greed. Um, and I'm sure plenty of other things. Just like any other endeavor, like this comes with its highs, its lows, its difficulties. So there's a lot to be learned here. And I definitely want to lean into that more going forward. But for today, I've definitely like gone way longer than I needed to. I'm up early in the morning to do this video. I didn't get a chance to do it on Wednesday just because I had some appointments I had to run to. But we're gonna leave that here for today. Down 13.73%. Rough week, rough week. But we're gonna stick to it and try to refine the strategy and see if we can't get back on the horse and make this thing ride. Y'all have a blessed day.